Welcome, 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 everybody. Again, huge congratulations. You're in for a treat. You're going to be hearing from quite a few of our administrators and our phenomenal faculty. Just to give you a brief overview of what's to come, we're going to give you a kind of an overview of Columbia Climate School. We're going to deep dive into the curriculum for the MS in Climate Finance program. We'll also discuss professional development opportunities, of course, along with financial aid. And then finally, we will conclude with a faculty panel. But before we dive into all the content, I am very excited to welcome, I think, a celebrity guest, our fearless leader, and Dean of Columbia Climate School, Alexis Abramson. And what I'd like to do is just give you a little background on Dean Abramson, who's, of course, our climate school dean and a leading voice in climate and sustainable energy. She brings deep expertise in energy technology and academic leadership. Her research spans thermal transport, energy-efficient buildings, and nanomaterials for alternative energy. Prior to joining Columbia, Professor Abramson was dean of the Thayer School of Engineering at Dartmouth and held the Maltz Professorship of Energy Innovation at Case Western Reserve University, where she also directed the Great Lakes Energy Institute. Professor Abramson co-founded Edifice Analytics, a startup optimizing building energy use during the Obama administration, served as a chief scientist at the U.S. Department of Energy's Building Technologies Office. She also advised breakthrough energy ventures supporting innovations to combat climate change. Welcome, Dean Abramson.
So much, Alfred. It's really great to be here. We're so excited to have our admitted students here as part of this and get all your questions answered. So first, congratulations on your admission to the inaugural class of our Climate School's MS in Climate Finance program. This really is a historic milestone, and you are at the very heart of it. I know I don't have to remind you that climate change is often described as the greatest challenge of our time, but it's also just such a great opportunity for innovation, for new ways of investment, for finding ways to really have inclusive economic transformation in modern history. So, of course, countries and companies and institutions and leaders like you that are at the forefront of climate finance will lead in the global economy. Those who invest in decarbonization and resilience and innovation will be more competitive and more resilient and more prepared for the future. Our admitted students, as Alfred sort of pointed out in the run through, is they represent 30 countries of citizenship, so including Austria, Bhutan, and Brazil, Canada, China, Colombia, France, Georgia, Germany, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Mexico, Nigeria, Singapore, United States, and many more. So together, you not only bring geographic diversity, but also just an incredible range of academic and professional backgrounds. You're from the private sector, from public service, from multilateral institutions. And the program really not only benefits from its close collaboration with Columbia Business School, but also the location in New York City, where the city is so committed to mitigating climate change and its effects, and really has a strong ambition to figure out how to take climate finance and execute on that to have the greatest positive impact as possible. It's really the financial capital of the world, New York is, and home to global markets and financial institutions, and climate tech startups and NGOs and policymakers. So really, not only will you be part of an incredible academic experience, but you'll be surrounded and engaged with the great New York ecosystem. So once again, congratulations. I hope you enjoy this session of speakers. Please ask your questions. Please take note of the advice of our faculty panel, and I look forward to seeing you in the fall.
Thank you, Dean Abramson. And you will also see the one, the only Professor Lisa Sachs. Stay tuned. Professor Sachs will be on the panel, but she's going to give a brief introduction shortly as well. So before we start going into, and again, these are our panelists. I will be doing formal introductions for our panel later in the session, but of course, joining us is Professor Lisa Sachs, Professor Bruce Usher, and Professor Gernot Wagner. So stay tuned. We're looking forward to the panel. I want to just very briefly give you an introduction to Columbia Climate School. Many of you might have, if you attended any of our virtual info sessions, heard this, but to anchor everybody again, when you're coming to an institution like Columbia University, you're coming to a major research institution, considered a blueprint of research institutions here in the United States by many. And underneath the term Columbia University, there's over 20 different distinct schools. The majority of those schools, graduate professional schools. Columbia University is the fifth oldest school in the United States, the oldest in the state of New York. And again, we have many august institutions here, ranging from, of course, Columbia Business School, which we'll talk about, but of course, Columbia Law School, the School of International and Public Affairs, the list goes on. The newest school within Columbia University is the Climate School. And again, our ethos is that the world requires knowledgeable leaders to work with businesses, communities, governments, and civil society to address the climate crisis. Columbia Climate School's graduate degree programs and other learning opportunities provide an interdisciplinary knowledge base for climate leaders with diverse interests and backgrounds. And we have to lean into the word interdisciplinary when it comes to the climate school, because as we know, the challenges and the opportunities that climate change presents, it's not a single subject. Not everybody has to be an environmental scientist to address this. Students can come from a policy background, a business background, and you'll see that flesh out not only in our student population across Columbia Climate School's degree programs, but even in the faculty that are working at the climate school, just in terms of how diverse their academic and professional backgrounds are. We also have to touch on Columbia Business School. And again, the MS in Climate Finance program is a climate school degree, but in very close partnership with Columbia Business School. And the business school plays that pivotal role in shaping and delivering this degree program. It's an interdisciplinary collaboration. It combines the expertise in finance with cutting-edge climate research. And we are going to prepare future leaders to address financial challenges of climate change. You're going to hear that throughout, and especially during the panel. The program integrates the strengths of both schools, leveraging Columbia Business School's decades of leadership in sustainable business practices and climate innovation to equip students with the necessary skills for impactful careers in climate finance. I want to stress that this program was not developed overnight. Many of the courses that you are going to see today are tried, true, tested, especially at Columbia Business School. So again, look forward to hearing a little bit more as we deep dive into the curriculum and hear directly from our faculty. Again, the MS in Climate Finance program, I want to emphasize, especially for our international students, this is a STEM designated program, 39 credit hour professional degree offered by Columbia Climate School in close collaboration with Columbia Business School. And in terms of the overarching curriculum and the themes that you should anticipate, I'm going to pause here, and I would love to officially welcome Professor Lisa Sachs. I'm going to do Professor Sachs' introduction now. I'd love to, Lisa, if that's okay. So Professor Lisa Sachs, many of you know her. Many of you have corresponded with her. Quite a few of you attended our Zoom meetup last week that I think was phenomenal, and we got phenomenal feedback from it. But Professor Lisa Sachs is Associate Professor of Professional Practice in Climate and Director of our MS in Climate Finance program. Professor Sachs is also Director of the Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment, a joint center of Columbia Climate School and Columbia Law School. At CCSI, she establishes and oversees its interdisciplinary research and advisory work on the alignment of investment law, practice, and policy with sustainable development goals. She is globally recognized expert in the ways that laws, policies, and business practices shape global investment flows and affect sustainable development. She works with global stakeholders across sectors to understand the interrelation of investment flows and sustainable development, and to influence investment policies and practices to promote the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. I'd like to welcome Professor Lisa Sachs, possibly the most motivated and truly spirited faculty member I've ever worked with, and just really inspiring. She excites me to work with the program. So welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Well, and it's mutual with Alfred. We have an unbelievable team here at the Climate School, but can I also just say that the absolutely incredible caliber of the admitted students is one of the reasons that I'm just so extraordinarily excited for this program and the fall. I don't know what we're allowed to say, Alfred, but there were just we were overwhelmed with the number of applications and made a lot of hard decisions. And so those who were admitted are truly exceptional. You see from the regions that you come from the countries that you come from. What you don't see is how many incredible experiences and insights and diverse areas of interest and passion you bring. And I'm just couldn't be more excited to be together. I promised Alfred I'd be short, so but I'm not good at being short. So if you haven't watched that, the coffee chat from last Friday, do, because I was not short there and I gave a bit more background on myself and the motivation for the program. But the one thing I do want to speak to about the program is that the field of climate finance is both absolutely urgent and not well understood. And I am hoping to address both of those with this program. The not well understood part is that it is used as a general term, and we don't distinguish and recognize all of the many areas of climate finance. First of all, the critical importance of understanding the implications of climate change for investment and business decision-making, both understanding rigorously the real risks, the changing landscape, and also the opportunities, but the very distinct challenge of actually financing climate action. And actually, there's quite little overlap between those two. There's some, and we will explore it, but those are two really different areas of climate finance. And this program will decidedly look at both to make sure that you uniquely really understand the distinction, the importance of both of those areas, but also why it's important to understand their differences. And then in both aspects, in both of those areas, there's just a tremendous set of issues, considerations, depending on geography, financial institution, the types of tools, innovations, and so on. And I am working with my colleagues at the Climate School around the clock to make sure that there's full exposure to that full breadth in the classroom and in the experiences that you'll have, so that you leave both incredibly informed about this very diverse field, well connected to practitioners who are working on these issues around the world and from different perspectives, and with the tools and knowledge to be able to lead in your respective organizations and institutions that you go to. So that's my quick pitch for the incredible richness of this albeit very short program, but extremely excited to meet all of you, to learn from all of you. Do listen to the Friday talk if you haven't. You'll also get a chance to see some of your cohort in action and the incredible experiences that they bring. So thank you so much, and I'll speak again on the faculty panel later.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you. And then just to give you a very brief snapshot, many of you have seen this slide, of course. My colleague Carrie Shimkus is going to give you a little bit more understanding of the cadence of the courses. But again, the fall semester is going to be made up of both climate core courses and finance core courses, both within Columbia Climate School and Columbia Business School. The spring semester, you will continue your finance course journey along with a combination of electives at the Climate School and Columbia Business School. And then the summer semester will include the Capstone workshop or the internship. The Capstone workshop or internship does run between mid-May to mid-August. And then, of course, you will have electives to continue to pursue in the program. But more details now. Let me go ahead and turn it over to our fantastic colleague, Carrie Shimkus, who will share a little bit more details and insights.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I want to extend my congratulations to you on your offer of admission into the MS in Climate Finance program. I'll do a little bit of a deeper dive into your courses and requirements and credits over the span of the year that Alfred just referenced. To dive in, what you see in front of you is your year at a glance. It's what you can expect as far as your courses, requirements, and the credits for the MS in Climate Finance degree. The MS in Climate Finance program is a full-time program. You'll complete 39 credits over the course of the year. Of those 39 credits, you will complete 24 core course credits, both at the business school and the climate school. You will complete 15 elective credits, also again at the business school and the climate school. And as far as the distribution throughout the year, as Alfred mentioned, your fall semester, in the fall semester, you'll complete 15 credits, but it's all core courses, both at the climate school and the business school. There'll be a lot more core credits at the climate school in the fall semester for a total of 12. But in the spring semester, you will be taking only business school core courses for a total of 6 there. And then you'll also be taking 9 elective credits in the spring semester. So both your fall and your spring semester will be 15 credits in total. Again, fall is heavily core. Spring is both core and electives. And then finally, in the summer semester, students will complete their 6 remaining elective credits, but you also complete a capstone workshop as the culminating experience of the program, but you will have the option to complete an internship course in place of that. My colleague Trisha Brown will talk a little bit about that in the next few slides. But this is your year at a glance. 39 credits in total, 15 credits in the fall, 15 in the spring, 9 credits in the summer. Again, it's a mixture of core courses and elective courses, both at the business school and the climate school. I will note for your elective journey, 6 credits of those 15 must be taken at the business school, 6 credits of those must be taken at the climate school, and your remaining 3 elective credits can be taken at either. I also want to note that I mentioned it's a full-time program, so students will have full-time student status. That is conveyed through what you see at the bottom are these residence units. Students will add what is called a residence unit to your schedule. It'll look like a class. You'll add it to your schedule like it is a class. However, it isn't. It's really just a designation to give you that full-time status. So in the fall and the spring semesters, you'll add this 1 residence unit to your schedule. Again, that gives you that full-time status. You'll register for your 15 credits. The same thing in the summer, except the extended residence unit is a little different. Students will be registered for slightly less than full-time credits since you'll be taking 9. However, the extended residence unit will give you that full-time status. So you'll continue to be a full-time student in the summer. And then I think finally, as far as your requirements, students must maintain a 3.0 GPA overall for your program, but you also need to maintain a 3.0 in your core courses as well. So I think that's everything as far as the distribution of credits and courses throughout the year. I'm going to turn things over now to Trisha Brown, who's going to do a deeper dive into your core and elective journey.
Hello. Can you hear me okay? Hello.
Hey, Trisha, we can hear you. It's just the video, it appears to be out.
Oh, it's not. Okay, sorry.
No worries.
There's nothing in front of the video camera. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, everyone. Hello. I'm Trisha Brown. I'm the program manager for the MS in Climate Finance, and I'm part of the Academic Affairs team. And I will be your point person when you come to campus for academic affairs issues, but also in the meantime, I'm working behind the scenes with Professor Sachs and the rest of the team to build this amazing program that we're talking about today. So Carrie just gave you an overview, and I'd like to take you through more of the curriculum for the climate finance program and tell you more about what to expect. So your first semester will begin with an interdisciplinary look at climate and climate finance, from the science-based dynamics course that teaches you the physics of climate change to the interdisciplinary approach our faculty use to teach climate change adaptation and mitigation, which is taught by Professor Lisa Sachs. In the fall, you'll also be exploring fundamental questions with Professor Sachs in the International Climate Finance course, which will be complemented by the Business School's Climate Finance course the following semester. One really great thing about this program is that not only will you be with students from your climate finance cohort, but you will also be taking core classes in this beginning semester with students from the other 2 master's programs here at the climate school as well. So you really have a chance to connect with the broader community in addition to your primary cohort and benefit through discussions and learning with classmates from very diverse backgrounds and interests. Of course, all of you are united as part of a community that is oriented towards climate action and learning. Okay, next slide, please, Alfred. So as Carrie mentioned, the business school core begins in the fall and continues in the spring with these courses. You'll have the opportunity to deepen or develop your finance and quantitative skills and lay the groundwork for your future in climate finance. You'll get a lot more context on exactly how all of these core courses will be valuable in climate finance careers later when you listen to the faculty panel. And I know we've gotten a number of questions about this. Students who have a background in finance, either through coursework or their professional experience, have the option to take an exemption exam for these 3 courses that are starred here. Those exemption exams are administered by the business school over the summer online. There's no way to study for them. They're just based on prior knowledge. If you pass, you're able to begin taking electives in their place. I think it's very important to note, though, that exemptions don't shorten the program. Everyone will need to fulfill 39 credits to graduate, but they give you the opportunity to take electives sooner. Also want to add that you'll be receiving a lot more information about these exemption exams, about registration, about everything that Carrie just described over the summer. Okay, next slide, please. So Professor Sachs just mentioned the coffee chat, and if you haven't watched the video yet or you weren't able to attend, I just wanted to reiterate a couple of things that she said and that we want you to keep in mind as you're thinking about this program. Professor Sachs just mentioned that the field of climate finance is not well understood, but we are laying the groundwork for you to understand it very deeply and broadly, to be exposed to a vast set of questions and content within the field of climate finance through courses, through practitioner seminars, and more. And the electives that are currently being developed ensure the broadest coverage of topics, the best possible lectures to teach on these topics, and alignment with your interests that you've been sharing with us. And the goal of the program is to give you access to learning both inside the climate school and outside the climate school, and to engage in dialogue on these important topics like you see here, sustainable debt instruments, emerging market finance, many, many others. We have several electives that are in development right now that are encompassing topics from this list, but equally important is the many experiential education opportunities that we're developing for you. I just mentioned very briefly this practitioner seminar series. That's one that will bring experts in, but we're also planning institutional visits, study tours, and many other opportunities so that you have as many opportunities as possible to network with practitioners, to learn from them, and to really solidify the unique academic training that you'll receive through this program. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So here you see examples of some of the electives you'll be able to choose from, which offer you a deep understanding of climate finance strategies, tools, technologies, geography, sectors, etc., that build on the foundations of your core classes. These courses have content that's very highly aligned with the goals of the program, including a seminar on climate policy and investment that Professor Lisa Sachs teaches. That gives students a critical understanding of the complexities of investing in the energy transition and how to understand and navigate various tensions and trade-offs. I should add that everything that we're describing to you today is going to come in a packet, a course overview packet, will be follow-up information from today's session, and that will precede the registration information I just mentioned that's coming later this summer. Okay, next slide, please. So the electives and the core courses I've shown you so far will be the primary focus for you during this program. You will also have a faculty advisor who'll help guide you through the electives that will be the most appropriate to allow you to achieve your goals for the program. And that's going to look different for everybody. So you'll be able to map out a very customized path for yourself. So you see additional options here represented by the broader set of climate school electives that may also be of interest to you. Next slide, please. So about our partnership with the business school, this program has been very carefully structured to deliver the most essential knowledge to support your climate finance career goals. And it's anchored in a highly curated set of electives such as impact investment or climate policy, many others at the business school. And again, these course descriptions and syllabi of these business school classes will be shared in the packet that we're sending out. Okay, next slide, please. So the culminating experience, which happens in the summer of 2026, which Carrie mentioned briefly, it happens alongside your electives, is a capstone workshop. Students will also have the option to replace that capstone with an internship that is self-sourced, but benefiting from the amazing career resources and team that we have here at the Climate School, several of whom you'll meet later today. In the capstone, you work in small teams and you work on a project with an external client in the climate finance field. And you're able to really apply your learning to a targeted problem and develop your analytical, your project management, your collaboration skills. Some possibilities, just to give you a sense of what to expect, would be working with venture capital and other financial institutions to develop methodologies for assessing the climate impact for their portfolio companies, or working with regional associations and banks to develop innovative financing tool for cross-border infrastructure, just to name a few. So I know that I've covered a lot and fairly quickly. Again, we'll be following up with you with more information, but I hope what you've heard about the curriculum gets you excited about this exciting program, and I really hope to meet you all in the fall. Now I'm passing it over to my colleague, Natalie, to talk about more opportunities on campus.
Thank you, Trisha. Hi, everyone. Wonderful to meet you. My name is Natalie Unwin-Curinary. I'm Assistant Dean of Academic Affairs here at the Climate School. Huge congratulations to you all for your acceptance into the program. This is kind of a transition slide before we enter into a little bit more detail on our career management team and services. And I wanted to mention to you the on-campus work opportunities that you'll have available to you when you get here, for you to earn money while you are here on campus. First and foremost are teaching assistantships. These are opportunities for you to support faculty teaching a wide range of interdisciplinary courses in both the Climate School and our partner programs. We offer an internship program where these are administrative and research roles that centers submit to the school for funding consideration. We pick the best ones and offer them to you. These are part-time in the fall and the spring and full-time in the summer. And the full-time summer ones can potentially fulfill the internship option that Trisha mentioned to you that is available through the summer practicum. There's a collaborative research grant, which really allows you to drive the bus, so to speak. If there's an area of climate finance that you are really interested in and you want to delve more deeply into it, you can identify a faculty member to work with you, and then get paid to do that research. So it's different than the others where positions are sourced to you and presented. You really get to identify what you would like to dig into. And then there are center research positions. There are over 25 centers, programs, and affiliates with the Climate School working on a wide range of topics. And they often have research positions available, like the Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment, where Professor Sachs is a director. And so we'll make sure that you're aware of those as those opportunities become available as well. I will turn it over to my colleague, Mindy Levinson now, who is the Director of Career Management, is going to talk to you a little bit more about the support that her team provides.
Hey, thank you, Natalie. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you and be here today. Well, actually, I can't see you, but it is great to be here today and welcome you to the Climate School. I also want to extend my huge congratulations on your admission to the program. We are thrilled to welcome you. So a little bit about me. My name is Mindy Levinson, as you heard, and I'm the Director of Career Management. I joined the Climate School about a year ago, but I am not new to Columbia. I spent almost 12 years at Columbia School of Engineering and Applied Science as the Director of Career Management, supporting the job search and professional development of the 5 master's programs in the Industrial Engineering Operations Research Department. Before academia, and I don't want to age myself too much, I spent 23 years in the executive search business, 14 of which I ran my own firm, placing professionals in the tech industry across all verticals. And I am super, super passionate about helping people navigate their careers, and very passionate about being at the Climate School and being part of such an important mission. So here are some of the career resources and professional development opportunities that will be available to you should you join us, which I hope you will. First, you have a dedicated career management team. Our team will be here to help you from the time you enter the program to the time you leave and beyond. So whether you're exploring career paths, applying for jobs, or negotiating an offer, we offer one-to-one support to help you succeed in the target goals or target careers that you're interested in pursuing. We also know that planning for your career and prepping before you start applying is really important. So We also offer resume and cover letter reviews, LinkedIn profile reviews, and mock interviews so that you can prepare yourself and enter any interview in a confident way. I'm constantly cultivating employer information sessions and site visits. I think this semester alone, just for our school, for our one program here, we already had over 23 events. And so you're always welcome to come to those. And I also cultivate them to target where our students' career interests lie. It's a great way for you to get face time with potential employment opportunities, to learn about the culture of an employer or an organization. And we bring in a range of organizations, from startups to established companies to nonprofits and government agencies, to speak directly with students about their hiring needs, corporate culture, and things that you won't find on their website. So really, really encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities. We'll also be having Climate Finance Practitioner Series, as Trish mentioned earlier. This will give you direct exposure to the field through guest speakers, site visits, and conversations with professionals from banks, private equity, venture capital, and public institutions, and many of which your director, Lisa Sachs, is actively engaging. So you can start building connections for the spaces you want to work in post-graduation. You also have access to sustainability skills seminars, which allows students who want to gain a deeper knowledge in certain areas such as GRI reporting, sustainability frameworks, compliance regulations, and ESG impact. So you'll have access to that as well. Each year we hold an all Ivy Environment and Sustainability Development Career Fair. We have, from year to year, it can range from anywhere to 60 to 80 odd employers, and they're targeted towards specifically environmental, sustainability, and climate careers. This year, we welcomed over 1,200 students from all the Ivies in the area and Columbia. And I know for a fact that students gained employment opportunities from this career fair. So another place I encourage you to attend. And you also will have an exclusive job board. We are constantly cultivating and curating opportunities for our students, posting them on the job board, and also our LinkedIn alumni career site. So next slide. So though this is a new program, this slide highlights the breadth of roles and potential career paths you might take. Once you complete the program, we've organized them into 5 broad categories. I'll give you a quick overview. Financial institutions and corporates, you'll be prepared for roles in risk analysis and opportunity analysis, sustainable and transition finance, and ESG strategy, whether it be banks, asset managers, insurers, or corporate sustainability teams. Advisory and consulting, from global firms or niche boutiques, there's growing demand for professionals who can advise on carbon markets, policy design, and financing strategies for decarbonizing infrastructure. The public sector and policy, governments and regulators are hiring for roles that shape national climate finance strategies, develop supervisory frameworks, and engage in international climate diplomacy. Development and multilateral finance, think DFIs and development banks working on blended finance, concessional capital, and capacity building for climate aligned growth in emerging markets. And startups and innovation, climate fintech, carbon accounting tools, and net zero product innovation are all fast growing areas where your financial and climate expertise can make a real impact. So this should give you a sense of the range of opportunities this program is designed to prepare you for. And then going to the next slide. So although we didn't have this program before, because of the, and I guess it's reflective of the interdisciplinary nature of the climate school, we have already supported some students from our MA in Climate and Society program in launching careers in climate finance. So I just wanted to give you an understanding and a quick view of where some of our alumni have gone. And as you can see, there's ESG reporting, sustainable investing, policy, regulatory work, venture analysis, and project finance, which is reflective of many of the same career paths that I outlined just earlier. And yeah, so this wraps up my portion of the presentation. I hope to see you all in the fall, and welcome again.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you today. Today, I'll be discussing some types of financial aid. We have institutional scholarships that are available to climate school students. We also have external scholarship opportunities as well. This is only a glance of opportunities that are available that are very helpful. It's a mix of different databases as well as websites, but we definitely encourage students to complete their own research as well. And if there's any type of external scholarship opportunities, you're definitely welcome to apply for those. And then once you've been awarded, let Columbia University know of this award so that we can get those funds on your account as soon as possible. Federal student aid is also an option that is available for domestic students, and these options include federal work study, federal direct unsubsidized loans, as well as the federal graduate plus loan. Now, the main requirement of federal student aid is that you are a U.S. citizen, and that you have to maintain satisfactory academic progress, as well as complete the free application for federal student aid. We also process private student loans, and this is an option not only for domestic students, but also many international students use these options as well. Not listed on this slide, but an option that many students use are payment plans that are offered by the university. These are interest-free payment plans, and we have many different tiers stemming from paying the semester bill for an installment of 5 different payments, 4 different payments, 3 different payments. So that's also an option that a lot of our students use. Next slide. Cost of attendance. So what is the cost of attendance? If you've received any type of financial aid as an undergraduate student, you might already be familiar with this. If you haven't, the cost of attendance is a combination of your direct costs as well as your indirect costs. So direct means your tuition and fees, your health insurance, any type of mandatory university fees, which are generally the same for all students across the board, as well as indirect costs. Now, indirect cost, it's not necessarily that the university is charging you these fees, but it is something that students should budget for. And if you will be going to school full-time, or even if you're going part-time and you would like to use your financial aid to subsidize your cost of living, you can definitely do that. Sometimes indirect costs do include living expenses charged by the university, but that's not always the case. Students are also encouraged to seek housing outside of the university, and that will not be charged to your bill. So basically, your cost of attendance is a budgeted amount for what it will realistically cost a student to attend the university. Next slide. This is the estimated cost of attendance for your direct charges. So we have here a combination of tuition, fees, health insurance. So you want to estimate about $50,000 a semester, with the exception of the summer term, which is about half of that cost. Next slide. You also have indirect expenses here. So this is a quick glance of what it might look in terms of food, housing, personal expenses, transportation, your books and supplies. So you want to estimate for this amount somewhere around $12,000 to $15,000. Of course, the summer semester, it's going to be a little bit less because it's just not as long of a semester. Different financial aid loan types. Now, this is specifically if you're looking to utilize different types of student loan options. So the first two are your federal student loan options. This is if you've completed a FAFSA application, we've received it, and then we have now sent you a financial aid award package. What's on this financial aid award package, right? So we have your unsubsidized loan, which is $20,500 for the academic year. It's usually split in half, and the interest rate is about 8%. This is fixed. It's not a variable rate, so it's going to stay the same. There's no credit check that's required. You only have to complete the FAFSA for this. For the federal direct graduate plus loan, there is a credit check, but the only thing they're really looking for is that there's no adverse credit. And if there is, you always have the option to submit an appeal or to reapply with a cosigner, a credit-worthy cosigner. So what's the maximum that you can take for the Grad Plus loan? It's going to be up to your maximum cost of attendance. So that's really a combination of your direct as well as indirect expenses. less any type of financial aid, scholarships, or student loans that you have received. The difference is what you can take out in the federal direct graduate plus loan. So if you're one of the students I mentioned in the earlier scenario that you know you'll be going to school full time and you will need a refund, this is where that loan is coming from. So you're going to borrow a little bit more than what you might need to cover your direct expenses such as tuition and fees, so that you can get a refund, so that you can pay your housing, you can pay your transportation, and you can really help you focus just on being a full-time student. The interest rate is a little bit higher at 9%. But again, that is fixed. And the good thing about the federal student loans is that there's many, many different repayment options that tend to be a little bit more flexible once you've graduated from the university, or once you're no longer enrolled more than half time. There's also private student loan options. So the interest rate for these, it either can be fixed or it can be variable. Now that usually depends on your credit. And it's also can be tied to a certain type of repayment plans. So when you're interested in borrowing a private student loan, you really want to do your research to make sure that you're aware of not only what your interest rate is, but is it fixed? Is it variable? Is it tied to anything else? Now, this is if you do have a credit-worthy cosigner, then you want to look into this option. It's definitely recommended because you can maybe get a little bit more of a favorable interest rate in comparison to a federal student loan. Many international students do pursue private student loan options, and I've included two on this slide, which is called Empower Financing, as well as Prodigy Finance, which you do not need an American cosigner for to pursue these student loans. If you're not sure which type, where to start when you have an interest in private student loans, if you go to our website, which is linked on this slide at Student Financial Services at Columbia University, it will take you to our private loan portion of our website, and it has very helpful tools that give you a snapshot of the most commonly used private student loans. It'll tell you what the interest rates are. It will tell you if you need a cosigner, and they have the option for international students as well as for domestic students as well. So even if you are eligible for federal student loans, I still recommend looking at private student loans because you never know. Everybody's situation is so different, and you just don't know if you might be able to get a little bit more of a favorable interest rate. Next slide. And then lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about IGRAD, which is a free web-based financial literacy platform that provides lifetime, no-cost, personalized financial wellness education and loan management resources to users. And this is across many different universities. So it's really helpful. Once you're an admitted student, you'll have access to log into this website, and it gives you many different interactive tools, quizzes, video tutorials on anything that's considered finances. So if you have questions about money management, personal finances, of course, student aid and scholarship opportunities, right, which I'm sure many of you do, this is something that can be very helpful to you. And it'll even help you once you graduate from Columbia. You'll still have access to it. And it can also provide information on retirement, investing, savings, and questions that you might have on different types of financial institutions. So I just wanted to give a quick honorable mention to really a great resource that's available to students at the university.
Thank you so much, Marion. I really do appreciate it. And now I'm going to go ahead and transition it over to Chesang and Peyton, Chesang Lotich and Peyton Hernandez, two current students at Columbia Climate School.
Thanks, Alfred. My name is Chesang. I'm a current student at the Columbia Climate School doing MA Climate Society. First off, congratulations once again on your admission to the program. If you get to join us, you are about to embark on a really exciting journey addressing key issues that are very critical at this point. And so I just wanted to share a glimpse of some of the influential points during the program that you may want to make use of, or activities that you may want to be part of when you get here, but it is not limited to the ones that I will highlight. So on student life, highlighted in the pictures, we've just taken a few of them. At the top left is me and some of my colleagues attending the Food for Humanity conference that happened during the Climate Week. Next is us dressed in pajamas, we just to make things fun during the quant methods class. So one of us decided that, let's do pajama day, and some of us showed up in pajamas, just making things fun. During Halloween, as you can see, some of us we created solar panels, and this was just to put out the message out there around climate change, the climate crisis, and we made sure to put out a message to explain that also. On the top right is some of our students, just to say their names. It's Sid, Salome, Esther, and Eric. They're actually currently in London representing the climate school. They were part of the ESG challenge, and I think they've really made us proud putting our name out there. At the center is us during the end of semester social that was organized by the climate school. It was a really good chance to reconnect and make friends and just talk about how the semester has been. And some of us were also going through doing their finals at the next day. So it was just a good chance to support each other, encourage each other as we finish the semester. Also in the middle, you can see some of us also during the climate week. It was during the forward food and fashion session that was also during the climate week. Most recently, we also got to attend the Climate Tech Conference, which was held in DC. And so I just wanted to add that there, where we got to meet founders addressing climate risk challenges. And just, it was also a really important session to network and meet potential employers. So it was really good that the climate school got to support us to do that. I also wanted to highlight a few more fun moments that we had. That was us sat outside the Butler Library, just enjoying soaking in the sun after a really tough quant methods class, just getting to just share. And that's the time to also make more friends or like ground and like cement those friendships that you had, sharing in and supporting each other in some of the say the questions that you're trying to understand and meet with the TAs. At the bottom was also during Valentine's week. The climate school organized a session for us to just make cards and make friends, just a fun time to reconnect with your friends. I want to pass it on to Peyton to take on the next slide.
Hi everyone, congrats again. I'm just going to highlight some of the really cool events and resources we have. The Climate School and the wider Columbia University tries really hard to have a lot going on for us, obviously. And it's been really, really beneficial. So we have events like we had a careers reception, which was held downtown, and there was just alumni as well as people working in the climate space who came and had small roundtable discussions as well as networking opportunities. And then Columbia as a wider university has really cool events on campus, such as the World Leaders Forum. Presidents from all around the world have come to speak at that, and they'll speak in the library, which is a really great opportunity to get to see a part of campus that you might not go into every single day. And then just in general, the libraries are great resources. There are so many on campus, as well as says, endless events. So not just during Climate Week, but throughout the entire year, whether it's talks with alumni, networking off campus, just social events to get us together outside of the classroom. There really are great opportunities to progress professionally and just socially while you're here. And then lastly, the Wednesday weekly. I've mentioned to a lot of people, it's really, really beneficial to look at those every single week. That is where they'll advertise research positions, TA positions, internships at the climate school, as well as external opportunities as well. The staff in the climate school works really hard to curate a list of open opportunities that are presented to them. So it could lead to your next job, and you'll still have access to that as an alumni. And you should get access to that over the summer. So it's really great to keep an eye out. And there as well, they'll advertise like speakers, panels, events to attend. So it's a really great resource.
What you're seeing on the screen is the Bollinger Forum, commonly known as the Forum. I will say that this is the very first place I landed when I got to Columbia Climate School because this is where our orientation happened. It is located in the Manhattanville campus on 125th Street. This is a really important building because this is where some of your core courses will be held. Just to highlight, we have the climate mitigation class currently at the forum. And for the fall semester, we had a climate adaptation class that is taught by professors within this school. So this is a really important building that you may have to take note of. It is also important in that some of the conferences that I noted during the Climate Week were held in this building. The Food for Humanity Conference, the Fashion Forward Conference was here. So it is a really important building for your noting. We also have climate school electives held here. I have my food systems class here, and it is also like 1 minute, or would I say 2 minutes, close to the business school. So it will be, if you have one class at the climate school and moving to the next one in business school, it is really close and so central to almost all your activities, and you can walk to coffee shops to grab coffee just next by. So very important. This is also where the academic affairs team is located, and majority of the faculty offices are at the forum. So if you want to go in and have office hours with the faculty and even the TAs, this will be the place. I think, yeah, this is a really important building and that you may want to take note of. So that's just all I wanted to share. Thank you. I'll pass it on back to Alfred, I think. Oh, Peyton, sorry.
Very good.
I think
I'm gonna jump in here. So just important program dates. I know a lot of people have asked about orientation. So in June is when you'll start getting all that information from us with the official dates and everything. We're still working to finalize the exact calendars. But contact will begin really soon. You'll get access to like the Wednesday weekly. The career advisors will start reaching out to you, and all that good stuff. And then yes, you'll register for classes in late July. Obviously, climate school classes are first available to climate school students, so no need to worry about the classes being full or anything like that, especially your core courses. Those are going to the climate school students, and you will be placed in those as necessary. And you'll get a guide every time you register for classes that tells you exactly which core courses you need to sign up for when they're offered, as well as how many electives you're required to take and the elective offerings from the climate school. So you'll get that before you register. And then the last week of August is orientation. So however those dates line up, schools, as you see, starts September 2nd, which is right after Labor Day. It's usually a Tuesday, I believe. And so they'll be prior to that. I think our orientation was about 4 days last year, and it's a really great opportunity to meet professors, staff, and other students. I made so many friends during orientation. It was a really great opportunity. And you get so much information pertaining to your experience at the climate school. So that is in person, held at the forum, and it's really important to be there for that. So keep that in mind. The last week of August, you will need to be here. And then the fall semester. Oh, so I was just gonna say really quickly, fall semester ends December 19th, and then we are in our last 2 weeks of the semester right now. So things wrap up in early to mid-May, and then you'll begin the summer session.
Thanks. And then we just do last one, housing, because I want to make sure we get to the panel quickly. So
Yes, I'll go very quickly. Housing in New York City definitely looks different than a lot of other cities, but just want to reassure everyone that you will find housing and it all will work out. But yeah, we all live kind of all over the place. I live in Morningside Heights, only about 10 blocks from school. Chess lives in Queens, and then Rishabh, who's another one of our interns, lives in on-campus housing. Well, I guess it's technically right off campus, but it is Columbia graduate housing. So all those options are available to you all. Definitely join those Facebook groups, talk with other members of the cohort in the Slack channel, and you'll make great connections and find people to live with. And definitely, if you're interested at all in on-campus housing, you have the information, a link to sign up for that in your acceptance letters and your admitted student portal. It's kind of on a first come, first served basis. So definitely just, even if you're remotely interested, get your name on that list now. You can always back out of it later before you like sign a lease or anything, but it will be important that you get your name on the list sooner rather than later. That's all.
Right. Thank you, Peyton and Chess. I really do appreciate it. And now we're going to go ahead and transition to our faculty panel. So we have already introduced the one and only Lisa Sachs. I'd like to now officially introduce our two remaining faculty, both at Columbia Business School. So first and foremost joining us is Bruce Usher, Professor Bruce Usher, who was instrumental in the design of this program, as well as Professor of Professional Practice and the Elizabeth B. Strickler and Mark T. Galogli Faculty Director of the Tamer Institute for Social Enterprise and Climate Change at Columbia Business School, as well as Professor of Professional Practice in the Faculty of Climate here at Columbia Climate School. Professor Usher teaches courses on climate change, finance, and business, and is a recipient of multiple teaching awards. Prior to his work at Columbia, Professor Usher was CEO of Eco Securities Group, which developed greenhouse gas emissions reduction projects in developing countries and was acquired by JP Morgan in 2009. Professor Usher was previously the co-founder and CEO of Treasury Connect, which provided electronic trading solutions to banks, and that was acquired in 2001. Prior to that, he worked in financial services for 12 years in New York and Tokyo. Professor Usher is an active investor and advisor to entrepreneurial ventures focused on climate change and clean energy, and is the chair of the Tamer Fund for Social Ventures. And then last but certainly not least, joining us is Gernot Wagner. Professor Wagner is a senior lecturer in the discipline of economics in the Faculty of Business in the Economics Division and faculty director of Climate Knowledge Initiative here at the Tamer Institute for Social Enterprise and Climate Change. A climate economist at Columbia Business School, his work centers on climate risk and policy. He is a monthly columnist for Project Syndicate and the author of 5 books, including Geoengineering, The Gamble and Climate Shock. And before joining Columbia, he taught at NYU, as well as Harvard, and held leadership roles at Harvard's Solar Geoengineering Research Program and Environmental Defense Fund. So thank you and welcome all to our faculty panel. I'd like to just begin with a question that why is it critical to study climate finance now? And if we could perhaps begin with Professor Bruce Usher.
Alfred. Humanity obviously can't address climate change without investment, simply because we need to rebuild our entire energy system, replace fossil fuels with renewable energy. We have to replace global transportation, retrofit buildings, invest in new industrial processes like steel and cement, which my colleague, Professor Wagner, focuses on. If you add all this up, estimates are that's between $100 trillion and $200 trillion over the next couple of decades. We simply cannot address climate change without financing that. But it's not just over the next couple of decades. Investment is already very strong today. In this past couple of years, investment in renewable energy has outpaced fossil fuels. In fact, last year, 2024, it was about double. So twice as much capital is already flowing into renewable energy than it is into the entire fossil fuel energy globally. So if we're going to put all that capital to work, it's important we have graduates who understand how to do that, the financial skills and the understanding of climate change. And that's why I believe it's critical to study climate finance now.
Excellent. And Lisa, I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, thanks. I have to say that Bruce is really the inspiration for this. So he says it best. I will just reiterate what I have said before, which is that I think just about every public and private sector institution is grappling with this intersection in some way, even if they're in different ways. In some cases, the reality of climate change is changing the way that traditional business and financial decision was made and changing the way we understand risks and opportunities. So really rigorously understanding that is as important as ever. And then on the other side, for many, there's the imperative of actually financing massive transformations of energy systems, mobility systems, of financing adaptation and resilience. And these are complicated questions, especially when they require coordination at systems levels with public and private sector actors and technology and so on. So as I've said repeatedly, and what motivates me so much is that these are absolutely solvable challenges, but they're complicated and they require really understanding the challenge and being empowered with solutions. And so I think truly there will just be so many different opportunities to apply the learnings from this program in just about every institution going forward.
And then, Gernot, if I could ask you kind of your thoughts on climate finance.
Maybe just to add a couple of things. So, full disclosure, I'm the policy person at the business school. So, yes, of course, it takes policy, and that is interesting right about now, and in the US. It is amazing to see what is happening around the world, of course, and it's amazing to see both sides of this, right? So there is, climate finance is about finding the solutions. Climate risk, the class I'm teaching, for the first time now, actually this semester to business school students, is, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there were 2 or 3 risk consultancies out there jockeying for position. One of them, by the way, was an NGO. As of earlier this year, you can go to Zillow.com, the real estate, the US real estate website, type in your zip code and or your address, and you get a risk score for your personal property. And there are dozens of these consultancies jockeying for position. Every asset manager, every financial institution, every insurance company is interested in getting to the bottom of this question. And yes, that is in part, right? That's the problem aspect of it, if you will. Getting a handle of that is crucial to then find ways to, in fact, target the solutions.
Excellent, thank you. And then another question, and this is one we get quite a bit actually from some both prospective students and admitted students, is kind of what type of skills or knowledge do you expect students to gain from this program that would make them attractive for the job market? Obviously, we're a first mover on climate finance here in the United States, which we're really excited about, but maybe perhaps if we could begin with Bruce.
So let's start with the fact that the students in our new MS in Climate Finance program are going to get the same basic finance skills as all of our MBA students. The same class in investment basics, the same corporate finance, the same course in capital markets, right? Plus, they're going to get very specific skills in finance related to climate change. And as my colleague Gernot mentioned, climate risk. There's a course he teaches that's specific to climate change, understanding climate risk, understanding climate finance when it comes to carbon markets, understanding project finance, understanding climate tech, which is venture capital, but for climate solutions, understanding blended finance. My colleague Lisa Sachs teaches in that topic and so on. So it's that combination of the basic finance skills that we believe at the business school every MBA should have, and we believe that every student in the MS in Climate Finance program must have, and these very specific skills that relate to climate change. It's that combination that is unique and we think absolutely necessary for our students to go on to success in their careers.
Excellent. And Lisa, do you have any flavor to add?
That's exactly
I know,
right.
yeah.
But I would just add maybe one other piece at the risk of being a broken record, because I keep saying this, but I think that this is a rapidly evolving but not well understood space because of all its dimensions. So I do think that in addition to the core skills, as Bruce said, which is fundamental to the design of the curriculum, really the ability to understand this landscape, to understand its distinction, its components, its imperative, what's happening in all different markets. We're making this intentionally international to ensure that everyone understands the distinctions in different markets and different financial hubs and so on. I really think that clarity of the landscape will be a tremendous asset, especially in this rapidly evolving and a bit confused time in the climate finance universe.
Excellent, thank you. And then, in terms of this question comes up frequently, but like what type of industries or roles can students anticipate entering? Mindy obviously covered this quite a bit, but there seems there's that flavor that just keeps coming through in the questions, like what type of organizations you see really seeking out the student population. Maybe and now it's like, who wants to? Lisa, do you want to take it? And then maybe
I can maybe start and
to-
decidedly be complimentary to what Bruce and Gernot might say, because there are, first of all, so many, as Mindy covered, and in so many different sectors. I might start with the public and nonprofit sector, because I do think that that's distinct maybe from some of the great inputs and ideas that Bruce and Gernot might have. But in the public sector, just to say, because I work especially with so many international organizations, international financial institutions, where this is, despite anything you might read, if you just look at the US, this is absolutely front and center for international financial institutions around the world. For those who, I know many of you want to advance climate finance in your own countries, so ministries of finance and their climate change task forces and so on, that I know many of you have been engaged in. So there are many roles in the public sector, both domestically, regionally, international financial institutions. And then because I come from because I'm in academia and work a lot with civil society, there's also many civil society organizations that are helping to shape norms, to raise standards, to bring clarity. And so there are many opportunities for those who want to work in the nonprofit sector to support the alignment of both policy and practice, or to shape policy and practice to align finance with climate objectives. So there are many opportunities in each of those. And Bruce, I will turn it over to you to talk about, many opportunities in the private sector too.
Yeah, and Gernot as well. But I'll speak for a moment on the finance sector. Every bank, every investment fund today is keeping their eye on these markets and finding opportunities to allocate capital to it. So whether it's sort of early stage, more venture investors, or late stage, more infrastructure investors, they all have funds or dedicated focus, simply because of the large growth in these sectors. When they were very small, let's say 5 to 10 years ago, you had specialist firms, and we still have some specialist firms today. But today, whether it's a BlackRock, a Blackstone, a KKR, any of these big funds all have capital allocated to this sector today, and we don't see that changing. The politics, of course, affect the speed of some of those investment decisions, but the overall trend is well, frankly, unstoppable at this point. I know, Gernot, your thoughts maybe on the consulting side or other sectors you see, because you industrial companies you've been talking to a lot.
Yeah, so a couple things, and maybe sort of concrete numbers from actually guest speakers from my climate risk class this past semester. So a person from the IMF team that does bank stress tests, who leads a team of 25 people solely focused on climate risk within the bank global stress test domain, right? Trying to figure out how exposed these banks are to climate risk. Somebody from Moody's, who leads a team of 50 people, credit risk. And somebody from MSCI, which is sort of the big one in this particular space, who leads a team of 500 people. And yes, of course, right, they're all hiring as well. So just a concrete example. I love, by the way, the final institution mentioned in the list just shared with everyone is Environmental Defense Fund. So that was my background. I almost spent a decade there before trying to make my way back into academia ever since. Yeah, so EDF is among the NGOs possibly best known for business partnerships. EDF is an office in Bentonville, Arkansas, and we all know why that would be the case. But maybe more importantly, there is some real action happening on the climate risk front, if you will, and on helping guide multilaterals, asset managers, and then the small mom and pop store who won't have their own climate risk manager, but very much needs the consultant services. The sort of broad view that many of these risk consultancies might be able to provide. And yes, maybe final thing, the CTO of Jupiter joined me as a guest speaker as well in that same class. The numbers don't look quite as impressive. He has a team of 15 people, but it's one of the premier climate risk consultancies out there. Those are exactly the sort of prospective employers that the MS in Climate Finance, of course, refers you very well.
Excellent. I think it's always helpful to see who will be in your network. You're not only coming to Columbia Climate School and Columbia Business School for the phenomenal faculty that we have presented today and the incredible resources in our curriculum, but also who you're learning side by side with. So it's great to see just such a diverse listing of organizations among our admitted students who have either worked or are currently working there. This is an interesting question. It's coming up so frequently, is the role of, AI in changing the climate finance industry, and what we'll be able to accomplish as professionals. How might it make it easier for us individuals to make more impact, or perhaps more difficult? Perhaps maybe or not, would you have a perspective on AI and climate finance? Or Bruce? It's such a or Lisa.
Talk quickly, then let Bruce play cleanup. Okay, sorry. So this is my climate risk shtick again. But just to be clear, yes, of course, right. The big deal here is to make sense of the amount of data. The term of art is downscaling climate risk. That is one way to say that's idea in whichever way. It's another to look at from a financial perspective, the specific location, the specific asset in a specific location. How do you do that? AI. And with that, Bruce, you have a much more practical.
I would just add to that very briefly. I mean, AI is driving the increased demand for energy at an incredibly rapid clip, and this is a problem from a climate perspective, but from a finance and business opportunity perspective, it's kind of exciting, to be honest, right? And a lot of that demand will be met with renewable energy. Why? Because not only is it clean, but you can build it cheaply and quickly. So I think we'll see a lot more renewables growth driven by the underlying need for power.
Can maybe add to that a tiny bit, which is that this is precisely the type of approach that our students and our program can help to shape, because as in many places, it will be natural that the data centers will use clean energy because it makes the most sense economically. That's already happening. But in other places, it needs actually some intentional interaction between the data centers, the grid planners, the regulators, and so on to leverage the energy needs of the data centers for expansion of renewable energy and expansion of solutions. By the way, this is one of the areas in which data centers can have a direct impact on the financeability of critical infrastructure, which is in storage centers. The guaranteed offtake, basically, or the guaranteed use of infrastructure by, for instance, large industrial users like data centers can make all the difference in terms of whether a particular investment is financeable. So this is what we've worked on at CCSI for a long time with many other industrial users like mines that are major energy consumers and so on, which is that how can we be even more intentional in leveraging the energy demand of large industrial users to intentionally scale clean energy and clean energy solutions. And then just one other, not referred to this, but just to say that we're also following with great interest the way that all sorts of both tech solutions generally and AI as part of that can be integrated in smart grid planning. Also, it's not new to use information from users and so on to make decisions about energy planning, but there's an evolving field looking at the way that new technological solutions and AI can really inform demand response systems and other ways to have smart infrastructure to manage grids and energy flow. So it's definitely a very topical issue to be looking at.
Alfred, can I just, before you get to the next question, I just want to, at the risk of being redundant to our audience here, I noticed that a number of our applicants, as you put in the chat, have finance backgrounds. And just to reiterate that anyone who has finance expertise can test out of some of our required core finance courses at the business school. That is We offer that to the MBAs as well. So it's not, you don't have to repeat. If you already have experience in the finance sector, you can test out those core courses, and then you can take more elective courses.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Bruce. I appreciate that reiterating that. There was forgive me, there was a question that I think I might have mistakenly dismissed, and I apologize if I did. Feel free to ask it again. Another question that came in is, this is interesting and a little bit more academic affairs based, but it could be interesting. Lisa, you might have some insights on this. Are there opportunities to integrate my capstone project or elective coursework with a venture I'm developing? There is something, yeah, I'd love to, does anybody, Lisa or
Yeah.
not, I'm seeing a shaking head. Yeah, by all means, feel free.
I'm happy to. The default, sorry, it's not even a default. The plan, the curriculum includes a capstone, which, as described, is a group of students working on a client project, and the climate school, with all of our support, are sorting through the many interests, the many applications from clients for the types of projects they'd like. But we, in this particular program, which is not true in all programs, have also created the opportunity for custom-made internships for the summer, because many of you are working on either within companies or on your own, very interesting applied applications of what we're talking about. And the whole point of the internship or the capstone is to have an applied experience applying what you've been learning in the classroom. So the short answer is yes, we have created a mechanism to allow for custom internships. What it requires is working with partners, with a client, with an organization, with an institution. It can't just be your own independent project, although there, may be other opportunities to do that with supervision and input and so on. But absolutely, there are opportunities to custom design an internship with the right host institution, the right client, the right partners to advance a project on your own.
Excellent. And then this was the question, forgive me, Paul asked, what role are institutional investors such as pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and insurance companies currently playing in accelerating climate action? And how have you seen them balance fiduciary responsibility with long-term sustainability goals? Who would like to take that one on? Yeah.
I'll start. I think all three of us probably have thoughts on it, but most of the major funds, particularly if they're not sovereign wealth funds, so they're more traditional funds. An example, say, would be BlackRock. They're looking at the opportunity through a fiduciary lens, an investing lens. They're saying, where can we invest capital that our investors, our limited partners, or our traditional investors, our mutual fund investors, are interested in putting capital to work where we can earn market returns. And the most common type of fund is primarily investing in renewable energy projects, solar and wind primarily. These are very large funds. They're relatively straightforward. They often fall in these funds under the area of infrastructure finance, and that's very large, very traditional, and require lots of experts to do. Some of these organizations, particularly if they're sovereign wealth funds, but even some of the private sector as well, and again, I'll go back to BlackRock, also have dedicated funds focused to, let's say, developing emerging economies or specific subsectors that are more challenging from an investment perspective. They still are looking to make market rate returns because they're fiduciaries. An example of that would be BlackRock's CFP fund, which is essentially doing forms of blended finance. So what they're doing is at scale, traditional investing, primarily in infrastructure. That's where the largest amount of capital is going. And then depending on their area of expertise and capability, looking at various niche opportunities as well.
Do you want to go, Gernot? I'm sure we both have things to say. You want me to start? Okay, I'll start and then you compliment. This is obviously a great question, so I'm glad we have a year to discuss it. And I think that there is a distinction between what they are doing now and what they're capable of doing within their own ways of working and with existing regulations as they currently stand versus helping to think about what role they could be playing and how to support that with an enabling ecosystem. And this is one of the areas that I think existing initiatives have really gotten wrong in thinking that financial institutions can do things that they can't within their existing structures and ways of working in their fiduciary duties, and missing the opportunities actually to think constructively about ways that the financial institutions could do much more with the leverage they have and by engaging with other actors in the ecosystem, including regulations and policy that shape what these markets can do. So I think this is exactly one of the things that we should really rigorously understand is what are the opportunities within existing institutions to do more, to do better, to have better methodologies, to find new opportunities, to think critically about making the best decisions within their current structures. But also, just to use every one of the sectors that was in that question that raises good questions. To me, the insurance sector is a especially interesting one because I don't think we are thinking as thoughtfully as we could about how the insurance sector could be leveraged and used more effectively, actually, to finance investments, for instance, in resilience and adaptation, as opposed to what they mainly do now, which is distribute risk, which may have some benefit, but is certainly not accelerating investments in some of the critical things. So I like anyway, let's think about that together over the coming year. You're not add to that.
And yes, there's a role for policy and so on, of course. Maybe just very quickly, two very concrete examples of personal. So I'm currently writing something with the CIO of Alumni, Europe's largest app. They see the backlash. They see especially the backlash here in the US. And would want to understand, right, what does that mean for them? Is there maybe, right, the pendulum swinging back and forth and somewhat more rational in Europe than in the US, perhaps? Is there a special role for them to play? And the short answer is yes, there is. Fortunately, I can't quite say more quite yet, but it's a matter of weeks at this point. The other thing, very quickly, I'm currently writing 800 words on climate finance for the OPEC magazine. Okay, so 3 months ago, I did not know that there is such a thing as the OPEC magazine. I have no idea who reads it. I'm just, dreaming maybe about, NBS has it on his coffee table and a couple of people stumble by and read about climate finance. But, okay, so that gives you a sense that, okay, so in some sense, everybody's thinking about it, right? There are massive challenges, of course. None of us on this call, especially faculty on this call would claim that we have all the answers. We don't. We sometimes ask some of the right questions and puzzling through this together in ways. One of the most things that we do right about now in the country.
I will personally be subscribing. I'm going to look for the OPEC magazine now. I'm looking forward.
It turns out it's not available for
okay. All right.
home delivery and for some reason. But
this is an interesting question. We have these I think there's two distinct, and the program's been very thoughtful about this, types of students that have been entering this program, and students with finance backgrounds, as Bruce has highlighted, or students with business degrees. And then we've had these very interesting students that come from more development backgrounds. That Lisa's very familiar with that profile, but these students are looking to pivot, obviously, into the finance world. So the question that's being asked is, forgive me. See, every time a new question
but maybe Alfred, before you even read one question, I'm going to group like 3 questions together that go to exactly your question, because I see great questions right up my alley about working with the different vertical funds, with the special climate funds, with those who are interested in driving sustainable finance in Africa and Asia and other emerging markets, whether we can explore climate finance as a mechanism to support indigenous-led interventions. Yes. We'll explore all of those, as was underscored earlier. I know that many of you are very anxiously waiting on a full curriculum, and I just cannot underscore enough that the delay is not for the lack of attention. It is the opposite. It is how do we ensure that we are bringing all of these topics and all of these areas of interest to our program in the classroom, outside of the classroom, with site visits, with partnerships, and so on, and research opportunities and so on. So it is a 24/7 effort to figure out that right mix. That's the delay. But because I know, not only because these are all critical areas of climate finance, and I have seen in your applications your diverse interest in each of these areas, I want to make sure that we have good programming in each one of them because they're all critically important. At CCSI, we are really working on scaling finance in underfinanced areas, geographically, technologically, and so on, and thinking about the structural determinants of that. So these areas about investing in Asia, Africa, and all different types of sectors, mobility, energy transition planning, nature, all of those things are resilience, all of those things, we're trying to think very rigorously around what that looks like, what needs to be better understood, what are the financial mechanisms, and so on. So I'm absolutely counting on all of you to engage in those discussions and that research. And before the program starts, and then certainly when it starts, I am very happy to continue to hear from each of you about these interest areas because we're building them into the curriculum based on what we understand to be the areas of interest. But these will definitely be plenty of opportunities to learn about these areas.
Alfred, if I should add briefly, one of the reasons that we designed the climate school core courses and the business school core courses is so that what we call non-traditional applicants, perhaps have no background in business, no background in finance, will have no difficulty through the core getting up to speed so that they're on the same playing field as everybody else. And we do this in the business school. We've done this for many years, and it works very well. So all of you who are on this webinar, you've been accepted to the program because we believe you have the potential to do very well in these courses, even if your background is not in business or finance.
That's excellent. And then there's been several questions just in terms of the dynamic situation taking place with the administration and higher education in general. Bernard certainly alluded to it. It's called a pendulum swing, but I think, Bruce, could you talk a little, you so thoughtfully discussed climate finance and just the work in climate as an opportunity. And I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on how this work is still extremely critical and there's still a great deal of incentive to do this work, no matter where policy pendulum swings.
Yeah, so I'll just very briefly, because I know our time is tight here, but investors by and large invest in trends. It sounds simplistic, but it is simplistic, right? So if there's a trend, for example, where renewable energy is increasingly cheap compared to fossil fuels, there's going to be more capital into that, and it's going to flow irrespective of policy. Policy does, of course, impact those flows. Get supportive policy, they'll speed up. Less support, they'll slow down, but they don't change. What I would say is going on right now, and obviously we're paying a lot of attention to it, is very important what's happening in Washington today. Is it affecting businesses in that we're kind of moving from an era where there was a lot of greenwashing, where investors and businesses would talk a lot about what they were doing, and frankly, sometimes exaggerate it. We're doing so many things to address climate change, and they weren't always doing everything they talked about, to an era of green hushing, which means they don't talk about it very much because they don't want to, stir things up with politicians, but they're still investing. And so the actual capital flows haven't changed very much in that sense. It's just changed, what you're reading about in the media and what companies talk about. And so from our perspective, things have not changed as much as you might think. And that's the key. I mean, for what we teach and for career perspectives.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. And that does bring us to time. There was one more question. Do we have time, Bruce? I just see one more question about Tamer Institute I put you on the spot. Yeah. One more is about for Professor Usher, you work at the Tamer Institute, intersects entrepreneurship and climate. What advice would you give to a student trying to launch climate ventures, maybe during the program?
It's tough to launch a venture during the program. These programs are very robust. There's a lot of not just the academics, but I always tell my students, you get two things out of this program. You get what's in the classroom, which Gernot, Lisa, myself, and many other faculty are going to teach you, but you get also what's outside of the classroom, which is working with your peers and all the guest speakers and the conferences, everything else that's going on. It is a very busy program 7 days a week for the whole year, you will be with us. Doesn't mean you can't do work on a venture outside the program, and there's some resources at the university to help you with that. But I would temper expectations about, I want our students to get the most out of the program while they're here.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, with that, thank you so much. And one thing to note, of course, Lisa Sachs is saying, Alfred, for time, feel free to email admissions and of course, Professor Lisa Sachs. We want to be a resource. We want to get all your questions answered. This was a phenomenal panel. Thank you so much, Professor Bruce Usher, Professor Lisa Sachs, Professor Gernot Wagner. Thank you, thank you, thank you again, and huge congratulations to our admitted students. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.